Sugar's Magic Circus. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hey, we got a letter. I know we got a letter.
You got a letter.
You were telling me about it earlier.
Yeah.
So
Give me 1 second.
tell the people about the letter.
First, a quote from Lieutenant Commander Lawrence D. Mezak, who, to paraphrase the United States Naval Service, one each, there's something magical about that first beer of the day. So cheers, kids.
Oh, cheers. Drinking coffee.
So today's letter, Sal, is a very interesting letter.
Yeah.
Is from Dan Emmett. Dan writes very small, hence the small letter.
Yeah.
And he saved on postage because he's cheap.
He's got tiny hands.
Tiny hands. But Dan was in the Marine Corps with me, oddly enough, and great guy. Got out of the Marine Corps, became a Secret Service agent. Was actually Bill Clinton's driver at one point, which I prayed for accidents every night. Nothing happened. Anyway, Dan went on to write a book, a very famous book. It's called Within Arm's Reach, about the Secret Service, and he's kind of a famous guy in unto himself. So Dan's letter basically says, I understand the concept of battalion recon, because Dan was a grunt, battalion recon, morphs into force recon. He said, the piece I'm not getting, he goes, the last couple shows have been very enlightening, but the piece he's not understanding is, how did we get from force to Det One to MARSOC? And so, we have John.
Yeah, so John is uniquely positioned in that he has done all of those things, right? He was also scout sniper. So we talked about scout snipers, we talked about battalion recon, force recon, and MARSOC. So John has literally done all of these things. So we thought we'd invite John to come on the show today and help us sort of illuminate some of these, the concept of how it worked.
Yeah.
Also, a little bit of a history lesson because John was there for the transition. So
Yeah, and it is history.
welcome, John.
Well, thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, so we always start the show out by asking people, because, the folks out in America enjoy the stories of transformation that the Marine Corps brings, right? So I always ask people, what made it happen for you? How did you become a Marine? What was the how did that work?
Yeah, for me, I grew up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Virginia, West Virginia border, and lived in both high school years in West Virginia, and there was not a lot going on. So when we weren't even lucky enough to be in the coal mine territory. We were just outside of that. So the two industries that we had were Musselman applesauce. If you've ever,
Love
I used to take it to the field all the time in those little cups.
yes, or Corningware. If you're lucky, or you became a shade tree mechanic, which is pretty much what everybody else did. Just hung around the house, worked on cars. I was not mechanically inclined. Really couldn't see myself in the applesauce factory, and getting into Corningware was way too tough. So I decided at an early age, I had a history of military service in the family. The first Marine though, so and my first time I went to visit the recruiter, I think it was in 9th grade, and he was a recon guy.
Oh yeah,
and
there's a common thread there.
Sealed the deal for me. But I got to. Went to boot camp, went to infantry school, and he told me you'd have the opportunity in infantry school to take the recon NDOC. I went to infantry school here at Geiger Tiger. They took us out to French Creek on the day we were going to take the NDOC, and we did a PFT, ran the O course a bunch of times, ruck run, all these things. I was kicking ass. And then they took us to the pool. And I don't know how I hadn't grasped the fact that
recon guy
but I thought I could swim. I had grown up, in rivers and streams and ponds, and I was never afraid of being in the water. I assumed I could stay afloat. But they were like, "Hey, do the side stroke." And I'm like, I don't know what that is, man. I mostly did some combination of breaststroke and dog paddle. Was kind of my go-to. I had seen on Hawaii 5-0 crawl stroke, but I really couldn't. So I failed. They yanked me out of the water because I was unconscious.
Nice.
But
nice
so my recon time was going to have to wait for a while. But I went to a strange twist of fate. I got orders to 3-7, which was at the time in San Mateo at Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
So I flew across on January 1st of 2000, or of, not 2000, 87. Okay. 88.
Yeah.
And when I checked in, they, by some fluke, put me in weapons company. So in weapons company, the company gunny was looking at my orders and was like, "You're an 0311. We don't have 0311s in weapons company." He's like, the only place that we have to put you is the sniper platoon, the state platoon. And I had heard the word state platoon. I didn't know what it stood for. I thought it was state platoon.
Like forced recon?
Right.
Yeah, so forest. I thought it was forest. Yeah. So I get taken down to the company office, and there's this staff sergeant who, to me, I think is like 70 years old, and I keep saying this private, even though I was a PFC by this point.
That's funny.
But they're like, hey, we're putting daily, because it was easier than doing like a battalion special order to move me to a line company. They decided they were just going to put me in the state platoon. And at the time, especially, at least there in this, you did your time in the grunts, you proved yourself, you got the opportunity to try out.
Yep.
To
Yeah,
get to a state
this was
platoon.
not an easy thing to do.
So I was young Johnny getting tossed right in a freebie. So the platoon sergeant was none too happy about it at all. Staff Sergeant Sigmund, and so he was also a very religious man. So he wouldn't curse, but he would like HE double toothpicks. So he takes me to the barracks, puts me in a room, and tells me to just wait. And so I'm still in my alphas, and I sat there for hours. I sat there, the sun's going down, and I'm starving. I miss chow. I look out, and everybody's walking around in civvies. It's like 1800. Finally, I'm like, I got to get something to eat. So I throw on civvies. As soon as I pull civvies on, he kicks the door open, and he's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? I told you to wait. He's like, get camis on. We're going to sniper school. And I'm like, dude, it's my first day. I'm going to sniper school.
Nice.
But they were running a regimental sniper school and his idea was that, hey, Daly will
get him
blow
dropped
this out his ass.
Yeah,
We'll kick him out. So I throw on highly pressed camis. He's like, something right on, something right with. And the only thing I had to write on and write with was the stationery that you get in boot camp. Right?
Your mom
with,
sent me a
so
chocolate
I've
cake.
got like big EGAs on it, and I've got an ink pen or whatever.
New guy.
And he brings me down. He jumps in one of the M151 Jeeps.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to be in it, so he's like, follow me. And he drives. And so I've got to run along behind. Wow. So I run all the way across Mateo to the back end where there's Quonset huts. And he stops at the Quonset hut. He's like, there's a regimental sniper school is going on. Go in. And I'd already missed the first week, like all the classes.
Perfect.
Of what being a sniper is, marksmanship,
minute
camouflage,
angle,
cover concealment, all of that stuff. He's like, just go in and take good notes. So I walk in, I open the door, step in, and there's table, and instructors up there talking. Every seat is full. These dudes are all like massive dudes. Nice. Or they look like it to me. All camied up. They got ghillie suits on, but their blouses are off. They're like huge. I'm like this tiny little kid, and I like step in, and there's no seats. They all stop and they look at me, and I like step back out, close the door, and I'm like, so stuffs aren't there's no seats. So he reaches into the back of the Jeep and pulls out a jerry can, like a metal jerry can, and hands it to me. He's like, sit on that. So I walk back in and I set it in the middle of the aisle.
Clunk.
And I get my mom stationed, writing letters to mom and stuff, and I'm trying to write all that external ballistics. I'm like, and this is a Friday. The day I checked in was a Friday.
Wow.
So he was like, they were like, hey, on Monday we're stalking, so make sure you have your ghillie suits. And I'm like, dude, well, what's a ghillie suit? But nobody will fucking talk to me or tell me anything because they all hate me because they've all had to work for years to get to where
and
they
this
are.
jerk off just pops on the radar scope.
So finally, one of the guys like feels bad, and he gives me some like garnish and explains. So I've got like one of my boot camp brand new pairs of camis that have never been worn that I'm spending the weekend sewing a half-ass job of sewing garnish on, and we're stalking that next Monday. So that's fortunately, the one gift that God gave me, at least at that, now I'm senile, but at the time I could look at something and just memorize it. So all of the definitions, I just flipped, I got people's notes and read through them and learned enough to actually do okay. And they wound up keeping me there, and that led to me, the ability to get the opportunity to go to sniper school, and then to, follow on opportunities. I learned to swim. Yeah. Which eventually.
Kind of self-taught, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had some, help. I had to ask, get guys who could swim that were good at it.
Yeah.
And
that's one thing.
And I'm still not.
It's good about the Marine Corps though. Is if there's a skill you don't have. That's what I did with swimming too. I literally just went to a gunny who was a WSSI, and I said, "Gunny, I need help." And I could swim fine. I don't float. I'm a rock.
You're a sinker.
I sink. My body fat then was like 3% or something. Yep. But you can always find that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've done the same thing where if I don't, but you seek somebody out, and if you're not a jerk off, and you go, "Hey, listen, can you hook me up?"
Well, there's a thread of an undercurrent in John's stories. Like I've talked to John quite a lot, as have you. But there's a tenacity to you that's like pretty incredible. So if you run into something that you can't do or you are not great at, you just have this ability to throw yourself against it like over and over again until you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what I learned from that experience. I think, and I don't know that I even really had that before. But
you think you developed it through this process?
I think so. I mean, maybe it was like latent. It was existed somewhere, but I never, until I joined the Marine Corps, I never had a requirement to do that.
Yeah.
You know, there were.
So let me just. It's the John Daly Show, right? So just hang on for a second. What you don't know about John Daly is that he runs ultra marathons, 100-mile plus races now. Yeah. He's a writer. He does anything that he decides to put his mind to, he becomes really good at it. So I recently read an article that you published in is it Consequence magazine? Fantastic article about your time when you were a sniper in the JOF, and just what an incredibly I'm going to put a link to it at the bottom. Yeah, because I'd like people to take a look at it, because it's like your ability to put us in the moment is really, really, really done. Well done. I mean, you read it.
Yeah, I read it. I mean, it resonated with me because of similar experiences. Yeah. And it does what writing should do. It puts you in the moment. And I'm reading this, and I see Keith Kelly in that exact same situation. And I won't give it away. You have to read the article out there in TV land. But I literally took that thing, and I left the office. I went down to the conference room so I could be alone to read that thing. Because I wanted to be able to concentrate on it, and it's just fascinating.
Yeah, cool.
Well done.
Thanks.
Well, my next question then is who were you with when that was going on? When you were in 2004?
I was with Det One at that point. Yeah.
So let's go back in time to how'd you get from being a scout sniper to being in First Force Recon, right? You were
So the one thing I think is kind of goes to what you're saying that I learned from that experience was that. The one skill, if I had a skill, was that I realized that I could work harder. I mean, and I think everybody can. I mean, if you want something, you can work harder than everybody. You don't have to be smarter or better. But eventually, if you just say, "Hey, I'm gonna work harder than the next guy," you'll get there. So I did. I wound up moving him out the Marine Corps a bit, but winding up back at 3-7 when I took the Force Recon in doc. And got orders to First Force. At that point, I could swim enough. Got the opportunity in 1994. I went to First Force Recon, and that was everything. I loved. I was there for 10 years. Yeah. I loved every second.
What's not to love?
That. And had every job from point man to platoon sergeant there. And was fortunate to be be the platoon sergeant. Fortunate, however you look at it. But I was thinking about it today because I was reading something or I was watching the Y'all's show with Bones.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I didn't know it because Bones was a young guy at the time. I was a gunny. Just been promoted. I got promoted to gunny on September 1st, 2001, and on ship. And then we were.
So you were on that same deployment.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. In Australia.
The Force Platoon Sergeant. Yeah, we were setting, and we had done in Darwin. We had been doing training with the Australians. And our first night of Libo, we all go out. We go to a bar. My platoon commander, who was a little bit of a strange agent, had shore patrol, but we had done some like helocast or. Spy rigging, wet spy rigging for the air wing because they needed to get qualified. So
that's a special insertion and extraction technique, and we'll actually do it. We'll do an episode on that because it's pretty interesting.
It's a lot of fun too.
You float around the water, you tie some ropes on, you get yanked out. It's not. I never liked it. A lot of people love spy rigging. I hate fucking spy rigging because there's.
Then you're literally hanging under the helicopter,
hanging by a rope, and there's a guy with an axe. At the first sign of trouble, he's going to cut you away.
That is true.
But. we had done this to get the qualifications for the pilots. So we were sitting in this bar. The pilots come in. They're like, "Hey, well, let's buy you a bunch of pitchers of beer and sit around and shoot the breeze." So it's the pilots and the Force Recon platoon who we're drinking,
which sounds like an absolute hoot to do.
Yeah, and my platoon commander comes in and just garbled, just yelling and runs away to the next bar. And so we're like, whatever. And then the televisions above the bar, like there's soccer or rugby or whatever on, and switches to the the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And we're like, holy shit. And we all, people start piling out, and I was like, dude, there's like 8 pitchers of beer here.
Let's think this through.
We probably aren't going to see any of this for a while.
Yeah.
So we got pretty liquored up before we headed back to the ship. And when I woke up the next morning, I made sure everybody was there. When the sun came up, we were at sea again, and somehow or another the MEU had.
We're going to war, boys. Yeah. Drink up. We ride at dawn.
Yeah. And that was just a phenomenal opportunity.
Yeah.
I think with my platoon, we were minus the SF guys were riding up in the mountains, but we fired the first shots. The first Marine Corps engagement. First gunfight that I got into was December 7th in Afghanistan.
Yeah. So that was taking the airfields for the initial...
That was we were the airfields. Rangers came in, and that's where I really kind of saw the power that Special Operations has.
Yeah.
Because my guys were, I was gonna send in a couple of teams to do reconnaissance on this airfield that wound up becoming called Camp Rhino.
Yeah.
And we needed, in order to do that, we needed the legs that the Special Operations aircraft had.
Yeah.
And we were told, it was Force Recon. Well, no.
Yeah. You're kind of special, but you're not
special enough to use our airplanes, so we're going to have the SEALs go in and do it.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think some Tier 1 units went in. So at that point, I was like, we had always bitched and moaned about the fact that we weren't a SOCOM, but that really, really drove it home. So the Rangers had gone in, secured the airfield. They brought in some Tier 1 units, had been there initially, and then I think the initial, from the MEU, the SEALs went in first, and then my guys, actually, a couple of teams went in before the main force and inserted the SCAMP sensors, basically around the airfield. Yeah. So it was a good time. We were, I had missed everything. I had missed the Gulf War. The first Gulf War I was on. I was at the poolside in Buenos Aires, which is another story. But
that's right. Because you were a Marine security guard. Too,
yeah. But for that, I was, I just assumed that somehow or another, things would pass me by again, and that time we got lucky or unlucky, whatever you want to. I choose to look at it as the glass being all the way full.
Oh, I feel that pain because Desert Storm, I was a senior goddamn captain. I was getting to the point, like, I'm gonna go home with 20 years with, sea service deployment ribbon. This sucks.
Yeah.
And even when it happened, my wife's like, "Is this gonna go down?" No, nothing ever goes down. This sucks. A week later. Poof.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember getting told in boot camp, they're like, if in your 4 years, historically, you will be shot at. And I was like, dude, I've been in now 17 years.
Nothing's happened.
Minus one small, incursion at a coup attempt in Buenos Aires. I hadn't heard shots fired in anger. And certainly none of me.
That's crazy. So, let's talk about going from Force Recon and then this idea, because I can remember from back when I was in Force in the 80s, there was always discussion about the Marine Corps participating in this new joint special operations thing, and the Marine Corps had always pushed back on this concept of becoming part of SOCOM.
Yeah.
So, from your recollection, how did we go from that into the idea that we're going to go ahead and build this pilot program and call it Det One?
Well, I guess, and I didn't know this until later, but when SOCOM stood up and the Marine Corps said, "Hey, we're General Gray, who was the commandant, said, hey, we're not going to participate. We're going to start up this special operations capable,
MUSOC
or we'll change
So
the
now
now
it's
to
Mal,
and then make a sock.
Yep.
They started, and maybe it was a little bit later than that, but they started a series of SOCOM Marine Corps meetings that went on every year, that somebody from the Marine Corps, I guess, and somebody from SOCOM would meet, and they would discuss, you know, the training opportunities or whatever the case was. So when 9/11 happened, Rumsfeld was SecDef.
Yep.
Said, you know, there was a call to, hey, we're going to need, SOCOM was tapped with the lead in the War on Terror.
Got it.
And they're like, hey, we're going to need more folks. You know, SF was like, hey, well, we'll make more battalions. We'll do this or that. SEALs were like, hey, we can make some more teams. But Rumsfeld was like, hey, I want, you know, the Marine Corps to be involved. And Marine Corps pushed back, and SOCOM pushed back, and said, well, you know, we had these meetings, you know, we just haven't really had in the past, you know, so many years. Let's reinstitute that, and that will appease,
placate
Rumsfeld. And Rumsfeld was like, no, dude, I'm not. So Rumsfeld was apparently well known in the, you know, at the Pentagon for writing these white papers.
Yeah.
That became known as snowflakes.
One page.
Because they would, one page, and they would just basically it would just shower down. Just do this, do that, do this.
Yep.
And he sent one, you know, or threw one out the window that said, hey, motherfuckers, maybe you're misunderstanding. I said that, you know, Marine Corps will create a presence within Special Operations Command.
Got it.
And I was on the way back on that deployment, kind of when we first got wind of that, and I was like, dude, I'd love to throw my hat in the ring, but I can't. I can only imagine that I'm not, you know, remotely qualified to be one of the guys. But it as it panned out, it was the decision was ultimately that they were going to build a unit that was going to be initially capped at the cap kept rising, but we wound up at about 100 folks. Actually, I think we wound up at a little more than that.
Yeah.
That which was roughly 30 recon dudes, 30 intel dudes, 30 kind of fires and communications dudes,
Support dudes.
and then it wound up being like some reservists, and we were using everything we could to squeeze extra folks in. We had a big contingent of reservists from Puerto Rico that somehow like came over and were armored, you know, all sorts of things that were with us for the entire duration. But it was assigned to my boss at the time, who had been my boss. He'd been my MU OPSO, then became my CO at First Force for a good long time, and then my boss at First Special Operations Training Group. So he, Colonel Bob Coates, he wound up asking me to come over to be a team leader at Det One, and he obviously couldn't say no. One, to him, and then obviously to the opportunity.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I think the biggest, I mean, it was funny when we started. We had we called ourselves the Recon platoon, which was always like a kind of a misnomer, because when you deployed, your job was assault. And we did very little reconnaissance, you know, as part of SOCOM some, but.
And so this was as a reaction to 9/11. So really, you were as Det One, you guys were immediately put into what, a conventional mode, like in support of conventional operations, or how did that work?
The intent with the unit, and it was in a charter. You know, it said, hey, the Marine Corps will build this unit for a duration of 3 years to, you know, prove the concept of.
That's all that was, really, is proof of concept.
Yes, it was meant to.
They
be.
knew what the end state was supposed to be.
There was a
but
lot
this
of.
was the interim step.
There was a lot of. You know, nobody wanted to do this. The Marine Corps didn't want to do it.
No, they did not.
SOCOM certainly didn't want to do it. And at the time, the deputy commander of SOCOM was General Halick, who wound up becoming MARSOC's first commander. And he was none, you know, too happy about it. Didn't seem either. He came to visit us when we were in Iraq, and, you know, kind of made comments to that the Marine Corps really isn't, or the SOCOM isn't interested in the assaulters. You know, those were guys who are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
You know, the intel capability or the things that they want, which a lot of folks held against General Halick. You know, a lot of the guys who were in the det held against him. But it was always intended. Yeah, it was always intended to be a proof of concept. Can the Marine Corps operate in this manner?
Yep.
Which I think should be kind of a no-brainer. But the concern was that we're Marines and we're too hard-headed or stubborn or eat too many crayons.
Well, and the Marine Corps doesn't want to lose grasp of that unit. That's always been a fight too.
Yeah.
Even when I was in Recon, this battle's been going on even before Desert Storm, and it's always come back to the Marine Corps refuses to have an elite within an elite,
Right.
whatever the fuck that means. And the second piece was that control, because even when I was at SOC UCOM every morning at the brief, the first question they asked is, "Where's the MEU?" Because they know the MEU's got a force det, and a recon det, and a SEAL det. And so the UCOM commander every morning asks that. Now, when you make the chop, when you go across, the Marine Corps loses control per se, because now they belong to the COCOM commander.
Yeah.
And that battle goes all the way back, and that's why Rumsfeld went. Have you ever read that letter?
Oh.
It basically pretty much says, "Go fuck yourself, Marine
You're
Corps.
doing it.
You're doing it." Chook.
Yeah.
And so, and otherwise, this would have never happened if Rumsfeld had not
No, it wouldn't.
been that point blank.
And nobody thought, one, that it was going to last, extend beyond
Oh, I see.
that 3-year proof of concept.
Rumsfeld will leave. We can just get rid of this as soon as that
gotcha.
jerk off's gone.
Yeah, so we wound up coming back from deployment, and they had the Office of Naval Research, like doing a big study that wound up being kind of historical book that was published on the what we did. Trying to prove that we would be unsuccessful. There was everybody from the Marine Corps, or a lot of folks from the Marine Corps, really wanted us to be unsuccessful. A lot of folks from we were deployed underneath the command of a SEAL task group.
Okay.
A lot of the SEALs, I think, wanted us to be unsuccessful, but we were under the command of a captain, Navy Captain Bill Wilson, SEAL, who was a phenomenal dude, and really, I think, took a lot of heat. He's retired now, but gave us every possible opportunity. Was a great guy. I mean, every time we would pick, and we rolled up quite a few of the deck of cards, folks. He'd come over with a big box of Cubans and sit around, and he was just, and he wound up commanding the buds and the whole school, and then moving on.
So that's what you got put into the cycle of operations for counterterrorism in Iraq, chasing down the lead guys that were fueling the insurgency, basically.
Yeah, that was our primary mission. We did some reconnaissance of things, some direct sniper operations, like you talked about. Supported a JOF. We supported a couple other things, and we had a unique opportunity to run the security detail for the interim Iraqi government. So we were primarily responsible for one of the vice presidents, who is a Kurd. So everybody wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
It was Mr. Raish Always, who is just a great guy.
Yeah.
So I was responsible. I ran the advance team for all of these. So everywhere that the interim Iraqi government was going to go, within the green zone or out or whatever, to give speeches and do meetings. I get to go check them out beforehand, kind of set up their hotels, hang out with them.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool opportunity.
Amazing. So we'll drop anchor on that for a second, just because I'd like to, again, promote the article, an opportunity for you to set it up. What were you, the idea behind the article is that it's a death letter, right? So a lot of times when guys go to war, they write a letter to their family. And it's you
put it away.
All the things you might want to say to
Your
them.
best friend knows where it's at.
Yeah.
And you buy the farm.
Well, in this article, John writes that instead of writing a death letter to his family, he did it kind of retrospectively to a guy that he had taken out. So it's just an interesting perspective on how. So it's like this conversation between John and this fellow that he shot. So if you get a chance, I would encourage people to read it. But I'd say. What was the thought process? Was that cathartic for you to write?
I asked that same question the other day when we talked about it.
In a sense, it was. I mean, really, it was. After I started using the GI Bill, I tried to blow because I swore I wouldn't leave a penny of the GI Bill on the table. And I was fortunate enough to get into a writing program, which I found that's just something I'd always liked to do, and with a little bit of guidance and direction, I could do okay at it. I thought it was something that was meaningful in a way, and I mean, really, just when the first line of it came to me, you're not the first man I killed, but you're the one I think of most often.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, dude, I got to.
You got to explore.
I've got to write this. I've got to write this.
Yeah.
And So it was. I think it's good. I think one of the things I'm trying to look for ways to do is encourage veterans to write their story. Worth Parker and I have a thing on Softly where we're asking people and we'll edit, we'll help them try to get things published. But I think it can be incredibly cathartic for guys to just write, and whether anybody sees it or not,
or if it's just for yourself.
I mean, it's really less important than the fact of kind of putting things down, helping yourself make sense of what happened. And I've found that I forget so much of just the kind of minutia or you lump things together. But when you sit and really kind of think about it for a while, when you're trying to write, what are the details? What did particularly when what did it smell like? What did it sound like? What did it look like?
And we talked about
those are the things that start to bring back memories of hey, this happened, that happened, and then you can open floodgates, and you're like, oh fuck.
And we were laughing about that in your office the other day.
Yeah.
About the smell thing. We were talking about Tijuana, the Philippines, the smell of diesel fumes. That brings back so many emotions and memories in and of itself.
And when I was kind of going through that, one of the things I learned in as a part of my writing program was that things seem more real, obviously, if you can include the more senses you can include.
Sure, absolutely.
And so when I was going through that, I was like, how do I smell? What did it smell like? I don't even know. And then you're like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do.
I know exactly what it smells
We all
like.
do.
Yeah.
And anybody that's been in those, and you like
Shitholes.
we talked about, you smell it. Downtown Wilmington, you walk outside of a bar and step into an alley around the dumpsters, and for a second you're back in PI, or you're back in the Joff, or you're back in.
So it's a little tangential, but I used to tell my wife all the time when we got back from Haiti, like Haiti smelled like you took a rotten piece of chicken, wrapped it in a dirty diaper, put it inside an inner tube, and lit it on fire. I'll never forget what that place smelled like. And keep in mind, it was post-earthquake, so there was a lot of death in there.
Yeah.
But it was a horrible smell. And it was a very distinct smell, so you're right. They do bring back memories.
Death has a smell.
For sure. So tell me this, John. After Det One, how did the decision happen then to make it a permanent thing? Since we've been so resistant for so long.
The conclusion that came from this Office of Naval Research, I believe, was that glowing report that we performed well. There's no reason that the Marine Corps shouldn't provide a full-time capability. And I think by that point now we're at 2006. The recognition that this war isn't going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger. And SOCOM now has been tasked with as the lead agent. We were all surprised when it happened, and we were largely kept out of the loop. We thought that based on our success that we would kind of be split in half, and they would make 2 detachments, and then we would be split in half, and we would eventually grow.
Parsed out. And,
there was like every day we'd show up, and the one thing for the 1st Marine Corps Special Operations Detachment, every fucking morning at like 7:30 we were in formation. That was like one of the requirements that our leadership had. We'd stand in formation, and there would be every day they were like, well, gents, we're going to go back to we're going to go to Iraq, but it's going to be under or we're going to go to Afghanistan, but it's going to be under the first MARDIV. It's the first MARDIV's like a new level of recon. Gents, we're going to attach you to a tier 1 unit. You're going to, there was every day there's like a different
mission
idea, or we're going to be disbanded, and you're all going to get kicked out. And so a lot of but we weren't allowed to leave. Yeah. We couldn't leave. So from the time we got back, and we formed in 2003 and deployed in 2004, came back 2005.
Okay.
Until we were disbanded in 2006, or like May 2006. We just showed up every day. We trained for what we thought was going to be the mission. For a long time, we believed that the key was going to be Afghanistan. People that could, and it was brilliant. And its idea, somebody that could go in, do reconnaissance, find and fix a target, and then assault. So we were spending all of our time, like up in Bridgeport, 29 Palms, just trying to see how light we could go. Carry, could you carry just a front plate and 3 mags and a grenade and a pair of binos, and how close could we get to objectives without. Because in Afghanistan, the big difficulty was you're spotted coming in, no matter how,
exactly.
or you couldn't carry enough to land far enough away to move in where you wouldn't be compromised. So we spent a lot of time on that, what we called the pursuit operations.
Okay.
And it was a ton of fun, but everybody else was deploying, and we were like, "Fuck!" So the guys, most of the other team leaders, I was by far the junior guy who was a team leader when we started. We wound up later on kind of creating a couple of new teams and splitting up. So Boss, who just retired as the MARSOC Master Guns, was my ATL that I had to give up to get its own team.
It's a small Marine Corps.
It's
tiny Marine Corps. It's like yesterday we had that guy that came in, Paul Gump, who was a buddy of mine from boot camp that now is left the Marine Corps, retired from the Army, asymmetric warfare group that came in. Hey man,
people wash up on the beach every day. It's weird.
They're always
especially where we work,
like bad pennies. Yeah. But I don't even know what the hell the question was.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand sort of. So then we
stood up MARSOC.
We disbanded.
So at that point there was another Rumsfeld, white letter
came
I think that said, "Hey, the Marine Corps, it's been successful. You've proven it. You're gonna do this."
Yeah.
And it was like I said, there was a ton of pushback at the time. General Brown was the SOCOM commander, and his deputy was General Halick. General Halick was tapped to come and lead this unit that General Brown...
That nobody wanted.
General Brown was adamant about not wanting.
Yeah.
I don't think he wanted to be seen as the SOCOM commander that allowed the Marines in. And I think...
well, the reality is, the Army hates our fucking guts anyway. That's... I've done a joint tour.
It was
tip of the hat to our brothers in green.
Yeah, I love you, but your leadership hates our guts.
Yeah, no, the workaday Green Beret
they're great guys.
Are brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But their leadership wants us gone.
I mean, early on, we would go to down to Bragg to go to Swig, their school, and ask them questions, and they're like, no, you can't observe our training, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So they were really dickish early on. Now I think everybody's finally...
Yeah, that did turn around at some point because we ended up with a lot of help from them
to
set up our training, right?
Yes, yeah, they wound up giving us a lot of assistance. Everybody did. Yeah. I mean, that was probably the strength that we had, was being able to look at, in some cases,
what went right, what went wrong.
30 years of more bad,
back to the 60s.
Bad choices and avoid all of those.
Right.
I mean, I was, freaking gobsmacked that, we were able to get because they said it would never happen. We'd never get there'd never be a MARSOC, and then the operators would never get an MOS.
Yeah.
And they never get a badge, and all of those things. I mean, even the Army, it took, like JFK, directing, them to kind of make it and the SEALs,
So what, it took 10 years basically for that to happen, though, didn't it? From the time of inception to about the time that you guys got an MOS.
Yeah, it went. I mean, initially, the operators were going to, show up and only have a 5-year tour. So after 5 years, they would go back to wherever they came from. The grunts, Recon. Mm-hmm. Initially, it was only Recon that we could take. We've gone through so many permutations, and now. Obviously it's open to any Marine that wants to try out, male or female.
Yeah. And MARSOC is just, in a nutshell, if you were to explain to somebody who didn't even know what it was, how would you describe what MARSOC is and does?
Ooh, that's
together, I think we can formulate this.
That's a daily question, not a John Daly question.
I don't. I mean, we're asking ourselves that all the time.
Yeah.
I think, and that's the tough. The reason that question is tough to answer is because MARSOC's still trying to find what's exactly his niche.
Okay.
I mean, I think if we assume, or the average Joe assumes that SEALs stay in the water and they are on the hinterland, and do boat things, and that's become not the case.
Of course,
since
a lot
9/11.
of crossover between a lot of the different.
Well, that's the other thing.
The general consensus.
Redundancy. Redundancy is not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
That's the issue.
So it's Marine Special Operations Command, and it's a component command that works for SOCOM in order to we kind of fill the gaps where there's holes for other units that are doing things.
We do, and that's been look, for me. I think was like I said, the realization that I could work harder than people, and the realization that if you just do shit that ain't being done,
Right.
you know, be the motherfucker that washes windows.
Yeah.
You're gonna go far in life, and I think that's been our success. Is that we don't give a fuck, dude. We'll
You got a
go
mission, we'll
shoot
take
people
it.
in the face
Yeah,
gladly. We do that really, really well.
Sure.
But if it's doing foreign internal defense
Training
missions or,
partner nations.
training other folks to do things, or we have people routinely, that the sergeant rank, and when I was a sergeant, I was. I wouldn't have trusted him with a lot. But
Things have changed quite a bit.
Sitting down, meeting with ambassadors, and guys, they're just.
Sal and I say that all the time. These guys are spacemen compared to the things we did.
These guys. We just sent a guy that we all work with to go get his master's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Degree at the Naval Postgraduate School.
Yeah. As a
where
staff sergeant.
Where his compatriots will all be majors and lieutenant colonels.
Yeah.
So, and these guys are brilliant. They're
tough. They're smart.
They're well trained.
Yeah. They're spacemen.
Yeah, they really are. Well, John, we really appreciate you coming out today. That was really illuminating.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
I think we answered all Dan's questions.
well.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, definitely.